Last week, investigative reporter and co-author of the Twitter Files, Michael Shellenberger, provided further testimony alleging that social media platforms conspired with politicians and government agencies to not only engage in mass censorship efforts, but also intentionally spread disinformation to influence elections. On Friday, Shellenberger informed the US House weaponization of the federal government hearing that the extent of censorship efforts was more severe than even he initially thought.
9 months ago, I testified and provided evidence to the subcommittee about the existence of a censorship industrial complex, a network of government agencies, including the Department of Homeland Security, government contractors, and big tech media platforms that conspired to censor ordinary Americans and elected officials alike for holding disfavored views. I regret to inform the subcommittee today that the scope, power, and law-breaking of the censorship industrial complex are even worse than we had realized back in March. Facebook, X, formerly Twitter, and other big tech companies are privately owned, people point out, and free to censor content. And government officials are free to point out wrong information, they argue. But the First Amendment prohibits the government from abridging freedom of speech. The Supreme Court has ruled that the government may not induce, encourage, or promote private persons to accomplish what is constitutionally forbidden to accomplish. And there's now a large body of evidence proving that the government did precisely that. What's more, the whistleblower who delivered the CTIL files to us says that its leader, a quote-unquote former British intelligence analyst, was quote-unquote in the room at the Obama White House in 2017 when she received the instructions to create a counter-disinformation project to, quote, stop a repeat of 2016.
Joining me now is Michael Shellenberger himself. Michael, you recently co-published a new bombshell report called the CTIL Files, which exposed the extent of this mass online censorship operation. Tell me a little bit about that, and tell me about how the government is using psychological operations and disinformation tactics against their own citizens.
Sure. Well, it's good to be with you, Rita. Good to see you. Yeah, this was very shocking. This was a large trove of documents, a complete set of documents provided to us by a patriotic whistleblower who had access to them. They show that there was much more going on than we thought. It covers a period of time that we had not had a good picture of, which was 2019, 2020. The whistleblower also said that the leader of this organization, it's sort of a supposedly grassroots organization. In truth, they were UK and US military contractors, had started a censorship effort that they tried to hide as a cybersecurity program. They were partly doing cybersecurity, and then they hid within it a censorship initiative. And we know that the person that was in charge of it, according to the whistleblower, said that the idea had come out of the Obama White House in early 2017 before Obama left office. And the idea was not to have a repeat of 2016. We now see other documents showing other government officials working for the government at the time, people working for FBI, people working for the Department of Homeland Security, that were doing the censorship initiative. But it wasn't just that. We actually have a new piece out today that showed that they were actively spreading disinformation. They were doing psychological operations, and that they were considering a much more sweeping program that actually included, and they described in their plans, debanking, which of course we saw Justin Trudeau in Canada use against the truckers. So we're starting to identify what's really a Five Eyes collaboration between the US, Britain, Canada, Australia, New Zealand, where you see these intelligence and security agencies working together to go from counterterrorism last decade to counter-populism, trying to counteract the supposed threat of populists like we saw with Brexit and the election of Trump in 2016.